Let's take a closer look at the Micro Galaxy Squadron Republic Gunship Muunilinst 10 version.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be doing an unboxing of the Micro Galaxy Squadron Republic Gunship Muunilinst 10 version. I am so excited about this. Series 3 of Jazwares' very popular Micro Galaxy Squadron line has not arrived in New Zealand yet, but we have some that are on our wish list that we knew were must-haves. This particular version is inspired by the Clone Wars Micro series that started in 2003 with the sort of shark design on the Republic Gunship. I am a huge fan of that Micro series, and I try to collect what I can from the series. When I saw that this version of the gunship was going to be in Series 3, it was at the top of my wish list. Now, this one is actually quite popular and hard to source even internationally in the places that do have it. We had been keeping an eye on Amazon.com, where it seemed to come in and out of stock. Every time it would restock, it would disappear in like minutes. So we were keeping a close eye on it, and then boom, it showed up and we were able to snag one, and it has just arrived all the way from the US via Amazon. So I am so excited to get stuck in. This is our first gunship. Like I said, we do not have Series 3 in New Zealand, so this is going to be my first unboxing of the Republic Gunship from the Micro Galaxy Squadron line. So I'm very, very keen to check out all the features as well as that exclusive paint job. Each version of the Republic Gunship comes with a different assortment of figures, so we're going to be taking a closer look at the ones that come with this edition, of course. So we're very happy that this one arrived okay. We have unboxed some of these that have come from overseas, and unfortunately the other one that we got, the Razor Crest, arrived quite crumpled in the mail. This one arrived pretty good. Just one tiny little smush in the corner, which was probably, you know, shelfware or whatever during packaging. So very, very excited. We'll take a closer look at the box before I dive in and open it up. Series 3, as I said, has a green note there. We have that classic silver stripe across the front, Republic Gunship Muunilinst 10. This is number 0067 in the line, and we have a fun little picture there of the gunship with that sort of shark detailing there, and again a larger version. We are keeping all of our Micro Galaxy Squadron boxes because I do really enjoy that artwork. Even though we are opening them up for display, we are still keeping all of our packaging because I really do appreciate the artwork. Moving on to the back. We have our little collectible blueprint, which you can cut out. If you are not keeping your packages, you can keep just that bit. Then we have a sort of a render here with some close-up details of the parts that move or play features. We have a component here that will move 135 degrees. We have some movement here that looks like showing how we attach the wings, I think, here in the corner. We have a figure that can fit in one of the sort of the little turret parts, and the turrets on the front can also move 360. So lots of features to check out there. And we can see some of the other vehicles from Series 3, which is fun because I have not seen these locally. So we can see the light armor class, and we're getting our first sequel series ships in this wave here as well. So we have Anakin and Obi-Wan from Episode 3, a First Order TIE Fighter. We have a couple of other ships, a Poe's X-Wing there, so again, another sequel ship. And of course, the Inquisitor ship, that looks really cool in that larger Starship class. So lots of cool vehicles that we are eagerly awaiting for them to arrive here in New Zealand. Box, pretty standard, plain blue with just the assortment text. Some more features pictured here on the side. It looks like this swings open, and it looks like, yes, the cockpit can fit the figures on that top bubble dome there. So that's about it. We've got the top with that bubble extending across the three sides so we can get a nice good view. I do know, I can see why people would want to keep these boxed because they do a pretty good job of the packaging, really. I can see that pretty clearly sitting just there, even through the plastic with the figures. They do a really good job of packaging these. And the CalBod does keep pretty sturdily. I've seen these on our store shelves, still looking pretty good with the corners intact and stuff like that. I think it's just a few unfortunate mail arrivals that we've had where it's been really damaged. So without further ado, I'm gonna jump in and unbox this. So I think I'm gonna go in from the top. So let's get stuck in. I'm so excited to get this out and get my first-hand view. I'm always a little bit nervous taking them out of that plastic bubble. Some of them are in there pretty solidly. So we'll see how tricky this one is to get out. Okay, so this is an interesting one. It just kind of has a bit of a explosion sky in the background. Most of the boxes have like a star field with sort of space battles or something like that. This one, I guess because it is more of, you know, we see them more in atmosphere, closer to the ground. We've just kind of got a bit of an explosion and some sky and clouds and smoke. A little bit more of a planar background, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this box off to the side. And we can see that we've kind of got some interesting parts there. The back wing has to be attached. So I'm going to see how well this is all going to pop out. Excuse the noise because this gets loud. Okay, so that wasn't actually bad. Okay, the first thing I can see is, okay, there, phew. I was a little bit nervous that I had moved that too much, but I just pulled that back out because it gotten a little bit pushed in, taking that out of the box, but that just popped back into place because I was worried that was going to be really loose. So I can feel that cool ball joint movement there on the front. This one is just a little bit looser than this one, but they both hold their position quite nicely. I absolutely love the color scheme on this. I love that blue. That's looking super, super cool. This is one of those vehicles that has that light weathering, and because we bought this online, I wasn't able to see the paint job in person, so I'm going to be taking a closer look at that. But first, let's assemble this, because obviously the wingspan means that this, is that just painted gold or is that metal? I think that's just painted gold. That's interesting. That detail there. Pretty good, nice sharp points. I mean, you know, this isn't bent. This is actually quite a rigid plastic. That's nice. And we can see that there is a light sort of grubby wash over this wing as well. We've got sort of a clearer plastic bubble here. So let's go about clipping this in. And let's see how tricky this is. This is always the nervous part. I'm always worried that something might break. Okay, let's see. Okay, I can see where the pegs are. Let's hope this snaps in. Okay. Whew, okay, wow, okay, that was quite a mission. I had to stop there for a minute and spend some time wrestling with this, and when it did, that one absolutely cracked on. That is not coming off. This one, I actually found popped off while I was trying to do that, and that one actually snaps back on, and I can actually wiggle that one a little bit. This one is absolutely solid. That was quite a job to assemble. I was really, really worried I was going to break a pin or something because there's not too many gripping points to really push that in. It was probably just a little bit of extra plastic on the peg that I was trying to insert, so that's not going to be the case for every single one of these, but I'm so glad that that is done. During the course of trying to assemble that, I bumped off the top component which you can see is actually, you know, supposed to come off and show the cool sort of missile bays in the top here. I always remember that scene where you can sort of see the aerial shot and you can see them sort of changing the missiles in the chambers up there. So there's some really cool gold painting in there. I love the level of detail that Jazwares puts into these vehicles, that this is painted. You know, most of us are probably going to display it with this piece in here, but I do appreciate all the little details. You know, most of the ships have all these cool details and things like that just on every surface. So I'm going to see how tricky this is going to be to clip this back in. Hopefully this is not going to be too hard to get this back in here. Okay, cool. So that snaps back in there, and it's just going to be a little bit of a getting your fingernail in under there to pop that out, but that seats in pretty well. I can't even really see the painting. They're pretty good with their seam lines, you know. It's not too obvious once you've got that assembled that part comes off, just that one little notch there. So now that we've got it assembled, let's take a closer look at some of these cool features. So I can see the sort of all over dirty wash looks pretty good and pretty even. Some of these have, you know, slightly sort of more weathering on some parts than others. Some of them, if you look at them in the stores, some look like they're very lightly weathered. Some look like they've got a lot more weathering. This one is just kind of a light all over wash. I really like it. It's kind of got a bit of a whoosh, like, you know, like it's been weathered directionally through flight, which I like. We've got this bright red sort of mouth here at the front with the yellow teeth around the sort of blaster turrets here at the front, which is very, very cool. We've got a bubble cockpit here, which is going to hopefully be able to fit a figure or two in here. We have little hooks in here, which I think is to hold the figures upright in case you load them all out. We've got some bay door here, which according to the box, we should be able to move. So I'm going to test that out in a minute. We have these sort of turret pods here, which can move around, and we should be able to open them and put some figures in there as well. Of course, we remember those. I always remember them in Attack of the Clones, where we see them sort of shooting around. Obviously not in this one. We have a little slightly movable turret here at the back, just a little bit of movement, not a lot. These are fixed. These bubbles in the wings, also, they don't appear to move much or at all. I'm not really getting movement there. They're pretty much just fixed, I think. Okay, and it is pretty much the same on both sides. We have pretty much symmetrical vehicle. And I don't see a landing gear to pop out here. That looks like just etched lines, and it'll just sit pretty sturdily and flat there. I don't think we really see much in the way of feet. We have the copyright text here. It says copyright and TM Lucasfilm Limited, 2022 Jazwares, made in China, in the standard sort of plastic. But we have a sort of a loading bay. Let's see how easily I can get this one out. A ramp at the back. This one is going to be a tricky one. Okay, let's see. Okay, there. So we've got a little bit of a ramp there at the back, so you can pose with that one down. It just looks like, you know, the interior of a toy in there. It's not terribly sort of glamorous in there. And this one has a peg so it can close up. So I don't think I'm going to pose this on the shelf with that bay door down, but it is there in case you want to sort of have some troops or whatever coming out the back. So I'm just going to close that one up, but it is there if you want that. It's just got that small notch just to sort of open it. I like that it's kind of stiff, you know, closes up nicely. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at getting these bay doors open. It looks like there is a bit of a lever there to sort of clip in and out. This will be interesting. See how tricky this is to get this in and out. Okay, oof. So flicking that little catch there kind of moves it out, and we can see it has a sort of a articulation there, so we can kind of move it back to open up this bay more. and then it would slide forward, which we do see in the movie and cartoons. So that's quite cool, and we will have that on the other side as well. Let's see how tricky this one is as well. These little catches, they're not designed for people with long fingernails, I'll say that. Okay, there we go. Okay, and we can move that bay door as well. Nice and movable there with that hinge there. That's pretty good movement. You can they can pivot out a little bit once you've done that, because this part is not attached to anything, but that movement is pretty nice. So you can open up those doors so we can see this sort of trooper section here a little bit better. And this looks pretty tidy. That's not too clunky for a mechanism. We can see there, it looks pretty tidy when those bay doors are back. So you can have it posed like that with clone troopers there. It spins a little bit once it's sitting down. The one thing I notice looking at mine is there is a little bit of a paint floor on this turret. It looks like white paint over the blue, which is a little bit of a shame. It looks like a little bit of a smudge. I might see if I can tidy that up later, but in any case, it is symmetrical. I can pose it this way on my shelf, and yeah, it'll look fine. There's nothing on this side, but a little bit of a bummer when it's like that, but what are you going to do? I couldn't see this before buying it, and with the weathering and paint job, 9 times out of 10, these are pretty good without too major flaws. Certainly in our experience, that's, these are, you can just wave it off as battle damage, because this is a blue paint scheme over a grey ship. We can just say that they got a little bit of weathering there on that turret part. But personally, I was much more interested to make sure that the paint job on the face was good, around those eyes and the teeth. And we've got a little bit of a sort of a nose detail here and teeth. And then again on that side. And I think that's pretty good. A little bit of a blue smudge here. But again, this is, waved off as battle damage. I do like how clean this is, generally speaking. That looks pretty cool. I like how stiff these rotate here as well. Good for posing. Okay, so that is the ship. Pretty much, I think it's fabulous. I want more Republic Gunships. I want to collect, like with the whole Micro Galaxy Squadron line, want to collect them all. But for now, let's take a look at the figures that come with this Muunilinst 10 version. So because this is inspired by the Clone Wars Micro series, we have here characters from that series. We have a clone pilot, and then we have the ARC troopers. Now these guys are super cool in this series. We can see that they have all their details, the red and the blue ARC troopers with their cool sort of episode 2 era paint schemes. I think these guys are super cool. I wish we had more merchandise of these characters. The Clone Wars micro series doesn't tend to get as much love compared to the latter Clone Wars series with Ahsoka and, the ones that that one got a lot of attention, a lot of merchandise, rightly so. It is very popular, had a lot of seasons, but I do wish that the micro series got a little bit more love these days as well. So let's take these guys out and let's have a look at them. I'm not expecting, they just come out nice and easy. Not expecting these to be, too complicated. Most clone troopers are standard weight. So we have here mostly white, not too much paint, just a little bit on the back, the little tubes on the back of the helmet there. We've got yellow and a little bit of a paint job there on the tubes and his gloves, but for the most part, plain white. He should have the standard articulation for this line, which has the arms which are attached to each other so they move together, and at the hips so they can sit in cockpit poses, which is important for putting them in your vehicle. So that's the pilot. Then we have the blue ARC trooper. He's very cool. He's got a lot more detail and a lot more painting on him. Again, a white figure, but he's got this black detail, pauldron, pouches. I love the sculpting on the pouches. That's really, really tiny. I don't know how well that's going to show up. Tiny little pouches off his pauldron. Of course, he has his blue shoulder, the detail on his helmet, and his little blaster holster here sculpted on the side. Fabulous detail for such a tiny figure. That's very, very cool. And now he thankfully has his skirt as part of his articulation, so that's not going to get in the way. If you have the Mandalorian on his, like one of the speeder bike ones, his cape clips onto him. So when you try and put him on his speeder bike, his cape just kind of sticks out the back because it can't go down, and there isn't a bend in it. So I'm glad that these skirts are part of the articulation, so I can sit them down. And again here with the red one as well. Same kind of paint job, same articulation. I really wish the camera would show up the tiny, tiny detail on these figures a little bit better, because they are just really, really cool. That tiny little pouch there, and the holster with it's even got a little blaster in his holster. I don't know if you can see that there on his belt. That's so cool. Okay, so let's get these guys posed in. We'll try the main cockpit first, I think. Let's just see. This guy feels a little bit more stiff. Ooh, okay, yep. I mean, this is the first time they're getting posed, so I expect their joints to be a little bit stiff, but yes. Okay, so we'll see how well these guys fit in the main cockpit. So I think the cockpit opens this way. Okay, nice and easy, thankfully. Okay, so we can see the seats in there, sculpted in grey. We've even got some weathering in there. That's really quite cool. We can see that this is got the clear bubbles, so we should be able to see the figures on the inside. I'm just going to put one clone trooper pilot in here. I'm going to pick the bigger bubble. Let's see how well he fits in here. His feet should fit under. There's a little spot for his feet to go under. It's kind of getting a little bit stuck. I wonder if he'll fit better in this one. Okay, he fits better in that one. So that's where I'm going to put him now. Okay, so he's a little bit hard to see, but we can see his helmet in there. Looking very cool. So let's see how easy it is to open one of these turret bubbles and pop a figure in there. I'm not even really sure which part opens. Is it this part that's going to open, or is it going to be the bubble behind it? Let's have a look. See, okay. The bubble opens behind that knob bit there. And I can see the little plastic seat there. And now let's try, and I think this is going to be hard. I've noticed that with some of these figures, when you sit them down, their feet want to splay out, which makes them hard to kind of get into little seat positions. So, like I've mentioned with some of my other ones, if I can't figure this out, I might insert a picture if I've managed to do it off camera later on when I'm putting these on my shelf. His feet, I gotta wriggle them just either side. Is he gonna go in? Ah, okay, yay, he's in there. Okay. His feet take a little bit of wriggling because there is a sort of a middle section of plastic, and you kind of got to wiggle his feet to either side of it. But once he's in, and that looks really quite cool. That bright red really goes with the paint scheme of this gunship. He looks really cool. Their poses work pretty well. His hands up looks like he's sort of holding on to the controls there. So I assume blue guy is going to fit pretty well in this side, but I want to try out and see how well I can perhaps put one in one of these clips. I recently opened up the Havoc Marauder from the Bad Batch that has kind of seats with these kind of clips in the back, and I really struggled to try and get a figure into these clips. Yoda fits into the little clips in his Jedi Starfighter because he's a much smaller figure, but Wrecker is a bigger figure. I could not get him in this at all. With a little bit of wrangling, I managed to get Omega in later after I had finished filming. It took a little bit of wriggling to get her in there, but they are quite small clips. So let's see if we can get this guy to stand in it. He might need his arms up because I think, yeah, okay. Let's give it a go anyway. We'll see if we can get him in sideways, perhaps. Let's see how tricky this is. Okay, standing up, sideways. Let's see if I can just pivot him a little bit to the side. Come on, you're nearly there. Well, he goes in pretty easily sideways. If you want to pose them in like that, he slots in there pretty well. That's nice. So if you've got a few others, you can pose them in there standing up. It probably goes in there sideways, but that's going to take a little bit of wriggling. He kind of wants to ping out a little bit if I push him to the side. And I don't, these posts, I don't know if you can see that, I can swing them backwards and forwards, so I don't really want to push on that too much, or I feel like I'm going to bend that or snap it off because they can flex there with the plastic. So pushing a figure in sideways works quite nicely if I just get him to stand up properly there. There we go. So we have a pilot in his cockpit here, we have a clone trooper here, and one there. So that's pretty cool. I think that looks really quite cool for a Clone Wars Republic gunship. I am super stoked to be able to add this to my collection. Of course, I am super jealous of all of the collectors that have all of the versions. There are some fabulous ones, and of course each one comes with different figures, so there is a lot of reason. I mean, it's pretty good for Jazwares to just keep using the same molds and doing different paint jobs and then just including a few different figures, because it makes us collectors want them all. But for now, this one, of course, it's not the Attack of the Clones one that we see in those Geonosis scenes at the end of the film. But I love that they are doing stuff from the Micro series. That is the only place where this one really is seen, and it is so iconic from that series. I really do. I love that they are spreading the love far and wide for the starships, not just the ones from the original trilogy, you know, Millennium Falcon, X-Wing, all that sort of stuff. They are really giving us some fun ships so you can collect them all or just collect from the eras that are your particular favorites. And I need a lot of Clone Wars stuff in my collection, so I'm super happy to have this. It was a little bit harder to get our hands on. We have no idea when or if Series 3 will show up in New Zealand, particularly the sort of variant ones that tend to be store exclusives internationally. We have struggled to see some of those locally, but for now, super excited to have this in our collection. I'm going to take up some close-up photos so we can show some of these fabulous details. This wasn't as tricky to put together apart from this one wing as I thought. Some of the small components are a little bit fiddly. This one, on the whole, pretty easy once I got that wing in. That was probably just my specific wing connector that was a bit tight and took a bit of fiddling. Just that one small paint flaw, but I can live with that. There isn't anything broken or majorly damaged, and I think it looks fabulous from both sides. Obviously, I'd pose those figures on this side if I'm going to put it this way on my shelf. But this thing is so vibrant and fun, and I just absolutely love it. And I need more Republic Gunships in my collection. So I hope you enjoyed this unboxing, even with my fuss to get that connector on. I think this is super cool, and I absolutely love it. Well worth the wait. We're waiting to find one in stock and then waiting for it to arrive. I think it's really, really cool. And I can't wait to see what Jazwares has for the next series. While those of us in New Zealand are waiting for Series 3 to show up, we're eagerly awaiting what new ships will be added to the line in the future. So thank you so much for watching this unboxing. As I said, we'll have photos on the blog so we can show all those finer details up close. Do check out our other videos. We have many other Micro Galaxy Squadron unboxings for you guys to check out. We have some chases there, and we've even got another chase to unbox very soon as well. So subscribe if you enjoy Star Wars unboxings. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.